Well, a security analyst is cautioning against the involvement of soldiers in the polls, warning it gradually undermines Ghana's democracy. Colonel Festus Aboagye, retired, insists the police should be solely responsible for the exercise. He details this point in his latest book, The Ghana Voter Registration 2020, Dynamics and Risks of Political Contestation in an Emerging Democracy. The book studies the events of the 2020 voter registration exercise and how that can affect the upcoming election. The Colonel says election security is a crucial aspect of elections and stakeholders must not take it for granted.
In democratic elections, there is no role for any military. We saw it during the American elections. We all saw CNN and other international media, and you didn't see any American soldiers, those deployed to Afghanistan, and you didn't see them at the ballot stations. You saw federal police, you saw state police. The U.S. has different types of law enforcement agencies. Now here, we have gradually come to think that the military is part of any security architecture or security arrangement within the country, which is not the case. And there is a risk. The more we allow the military to be involved in election security, the more likely that we undermine our democratic elections. And it's something that I think we need to pay attention.
Well, Colonel Festus Aboagye has joined the show, and I'll be coming to him for more on this. But Dean of Academic Affairs at the Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Dr. Vladimir Ntwidanso, is urging the police to be circumspect in the discharge of their duties.
Well, basically, if you look at the world today, there is hardly any democratic elections or any elections that is incident-free. All you can do is to mitigate or try to draw this kind of thing down. At the last minute like this, what we can do is to continue with the peace effort that we're talking about, continue encouraging the Electoral Commission to do what is right, and to encourage also the peace officers, especially the police, who will be built to monitor and help bring the peace, to do their work as pertains per the Constitution. They shouldn't be part of any thing that will mar the beauty of the elections. So we'll still continue to preach and say that elections are not a do and die affair. Go vote, go back to your house. By all means, somebody would win. And the winner does not mean that Ghana is dead. So just go, sleep, listen to the results. If everything has been done perfectly well, Ghana goes on.
Let's have this conversation on security for our elections, and we've been joined by Colonel Festus Aboagye, retired. He's the author of the Ghana Voter Registration 2020, Dynamics and Results of Political Contestation in an Emerging Democracy. Thank you for your time here this morning. Quickly, let's zoom into your concerns about the military being involved in election security or election policing. In a recent survey by the University of Ghana, majority of respondents say they wanted the military heavily involved in election security. But you say that's not the way to go. Why? I'm sorry, Colonel, we can't hear you. Can you kindly unmute your device?
Sorry, please. I had unmuted.
That's okay.
Or I had muted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying that thanks for having me. I'm saying that it is precisely because of this public perception that the military should or must be involved in election security, because the police is not able to do that work. Is the reason why I am drawing attention or cautioning against the erosion of our democratic ideals and principles. It is the international norm that democracies, and in the book I've qualified it, good democracies, do not involve their militaries in election security. However, if the military should be involved, they play a supporting role. Secondly, their functions, their tasks, are clearly defined and demarcated from those of the police. And under no circumstance should the military and the police be joined in our conceptualization of what we call joint operations. So I have cited in this book the examples of 2012, 2016, where the military were held on standby at certain locations, including in barracks, including at police stations, and including at other places that are easily within reach, in proximity of some of these ballot centers. What I am cautioning against is what we saw during the voter registration. For instance, military men establishing roadblocks and arrogating to themselves the functions of EC in certifying who a Ghanaian is and who a Ghanaian, and inspecting ID cards and so on.
Okay.
That is not how democratic elections are conducted.
Okay, so your issue is not with military men being stationed at polling centers per se, but it's in specific reference to some of the incidents, as you mentioned, during the voter registration exercise.
No, let me be clear.
Okay.
There is no need to station military personnel at ballot stations. That's the point I'm making.
Okay, you
That is a function of the police.
Okay.
And IGP has said that minimum there will be one police officer at every ballot center.
All right.
Secondly, there will be police on patrol. Thirdly, there will be police rapid reaction.
All right.
Now, the next layer will be the military, who will be on standby, ready to be called by the police as and when the police is not able to deal with the situation.
All right. So
we must not come to accept that it is normal during elections to deploy military personnel, in vehicles patrolling around ballot centers. That is not the norm. So I'm talking about what pertains in democracies.
Okay.
And these principles are enshrined in a number of international and ECOWAS regional documents.
all right, Colonel, and this discussion we are having about security personnel is all to ensure that we maintain and grow our peace. Well, currently at the Kempinski Hotel, there is an event to sign a peace pact, and this will be done by President Akufo-Addo and the main contender, John Dramani Mahama, who is presidential candidate of the NDC. We're expecting that to start shortly. Maxwell Agbagba is alive and he's there with us, and he'll be bringing us all the updates we need to know once the program begins. Hello, Maxwell. What can you report?
All the dignitaries are actually seated. I've seen the EC chairperson, Shane German Sanchez, already seated here. I've also seen the national chief imam. He just went to sit down just about 5 minutes ago. I've also seen the NDC presidential candidate, John Mahama. He's also seated here. I've seen the executive director of IDEC, Dr. Emmanuel Lakwete. I've seen quite a number of people who are already seated, just waiting for the president to arrive. I've also seen some members of the diplomatic corps also seated, waiting for the program itself to commence. Let me just run you through what we're expecting here. So there will be at 9:45, there's supposed to be the conveners and presidential candidates take their seat. Okay, so let me take you through to part 2. We'll have conveners remarks from Dr. Emmanuel Lakwete, Executive Director of IDEC. We'll have Reverend Dr. Ernest Edijensi, who's already seated, Chairman of the National Peace Council. He would give his remarks. We'll have the President of the National House of Chiefs also giving his remarks. We'll have a statement from the EC Chairperson, Jane Mensah. We'll also have a statement by George Ikufu-Dampare, who's the Director General of the Administration for the Ghana Peace Service. We'll have speeches from John Dramani Mahama, who is the former president of the Republic of Ghana and flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress.
All right.
We'll also have Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, president of Ghana, giving a speech. And then we'll move to part 6 of the program, which would be the signing of the Presidential Election Peace Pact.
Okay. All right.
And
We'll go back to Maxwell shortly when that program begins, but he's just painted a picture for us of what to expect. It's live here on your election headquarters, the JoyNews channel. But let me come back to you, Colonel Festus Obuaje. Let me take this opportunity to find out from you what this will mean to keeping peace during the elections, the signing of this peace pact by President Akufo-Addo and John Dramani Mahama.
Well, I think it's a good symbolism to see the two, leading members of the two major political parties more or less smoking the peace pipe and sending a clear message to the electorate, particularly to their followers, to follow their example and not to indulge themselves in any acts of violence. But, experience will show that sometimes when such accords are established, the message doesn't get down to those at the front lines who may continue, with their acts of violence. But otherwise, it is a good example. And I hope that all of us will, follow the example of these two leaders.
On the involvement of military personnel in elections security. The survey I made reference to, the University of Ghana survey, in which majority of respondents said they would prefer the military involved in election results. Their reason is that they still think that political parties still have vigilante groups, and they think once the military is there, they are the force that can tackle whatever those people bring on board. Well,
I think that survey, that particular set of questions, if I remember very well, the military scored upward of 80% anyway, 82 or 87% in terms of the confidence ranking, followed by the EC and the police coming in third place. I cannot remember exactly what. The issue here is that we cannot continue since independence, or minimum, since the advent of this Fourth Republic, to be arguing that the police cannot or is not able to do its work. It is incumbent upon us as a people, as a state, to ensure that we have a police service that can deliver on its mandate. So not doing that and then trying to find the military, to step in and do the work that the police should be doing in the first place, I don't think is the right policy approach. And there are very clear dangers. You see, we saw the police officers deployed at the square. They were not armed. But the police will have armed personnel on patrol and on the rapid reaction component. There is no way that you're going to deploy soldiers, take their weapons away, and ask them to go and do the work that the police officers are doing. Militaries are not trained to do that kind of work. They should be armed. Now, once they are armed, you are likely now to infringe one of the principles of democratic elections, which is the absence of intimidation. Because the weapon itself and the uniform, as indeed the Ghanaians are saying, has inherent in it that element of, if you like, fear, of power. You see, that is why in democracies, the military is the last line. You don't add them as frontline law enforcement officials. And we must try and work towards that. Really, I don't think that there is need on Monday to deploy the military in frontline police roles. Let them stand by. Let's establish good communications. And if the police at any particular locality cannot perform their functions, let them put it in writing. That is what we are trained, or that is how we are trained at the military schools. There must be a written request for the military to come in.
Sorry, Colonel, won't that be too bureaucratic? I mean, if
No, it's not bureaucratic. There is joint communication.
Okay.
There is communication between the commander of the local commander of the military on standby in a supporting role, and the police commander who is doing, let's call it, the tactical monitoring and security of the elections. So when the police determine that, look, this situation, like, say, Tema East, that we saw on a special voting day. It's a matter of taking the telephone, getting the military or signing the paper and getting the military to come in. You see, what is happening is that we are not deploying military units. We are deploying individuals. And in Tema East, we saw military personnel. They were naval personnel.
Hello, Colonel? Well, we seem to have a challenge with that line, but that was Colonel Festus.
Right in the middle of the confusion.
Okay.
That is not, and that danger of bringing contact. Yes.
Sorry, Colonel, we lost you a bit there. Yeah, it's better now. But we'll have to end this conversation for now. We appreciate your time, really. Colonel Festus Aboagye just launched his book, The Ghana Voter Registration 2020, Dynamics and Risk of Political Contestation in an Emerging Democracy. And his point is that we don't need military involvement in police security. But